You know, I had an intro video in my drafts. The last time I did one, I was at 50,000 followers. It's grown a little bit since then. So for those of you who are new, I'm Nat. I was married for 20 years. We split in November of 2020, and I started this TikTok account 6 days after he moved out. I didn't fully understand what had happened to me, but I was starting to talk about boundaries. I was, at the time, thinking really of how it was affecting my kids. And I just was a mess mentally. I couldn't remember most of what I talk about here now. I had become flighty and clumsy, and I was losing track of even vocabulary. As I started to talk about things and piece some things together, people in the comments started to pop up to tell me, "Oh, that doesn't sound right. That sounds a little bit like narcissism or coercion." So I started listening to podcasts, and I started reading books. And I started to just fill my mind with everything that I could find on everything that you guys were talking about in my comments. And my mind became like Christmas lights, those flashing ones with all the different colors. I'd remember something, and then it would go away. And then I would remember another thing, and then it would go away. But every time I did, I made a video about it. I would read something from The Body Keeps the Score, and suddenly something would click for me, and I would make a video about it. And every step of the way, you guys have been there to share your stories and make me feel less alone. So at some point, I discovered that I had been sexually coerced most of all of my marriage from the wedding night. I also realized that part of my memory issues were from being gaslit by my husband and other people around me into making me think that all of it was in my head and it was really me who was the abuser. I had been thoroughly convinced that not having sex with my husband when he wanted it was emotional abuse. And all of his behavior toward me and the kids was in reaction to my abuse of him. I don't talk about my kids a whole lot, but they saved me. They saved all of us. My oldest, who's now at 19, was 14 to 16 and knew exactly what was going on in our house, and something needed to change, and they told me that I needed to get my shit together. So I asked him to leave, and being the good man that he is, he did the right thing, and he left. Now there's a whole lot more to this story. If you want to go to my profile, click on the playlists that are running across the top horizontally, go all the way to the right, just about, and you'll see one called My Story, and that'll have more about me in particular. Thank you for being here with me. 6 days ago, my husband of almost 20 years moved out. I still want to work on things with him, but he's out of the house for now just so that we can have some peace. As a Christian, I never felt like it was okay for me to consider divorce. Whether it was best for the kids or not, I felt like ultimately what was best was keeping the peace. He was laughing about something. He didn't know that. I don't think she even knew he was here, but he said, "What? You don't want me here?" For years, my husband had me convinced that I was a messy sleeper because blankets would be all over the floor in the morning. Even when he didn't come to bed with me, the bed was a mess. But since he's been gone, it's looked like this every morning. In the last few years, I've become more flighty and clumsy, more than is usual for me. But since my husband moved out a month ago, things have cleared up. I have much better focus, and I'm able to think straight. If you're bleeding and you just can't figure out why, look for the knife. 6 months he's been gone, and I have yet to run into him in public until tonight. You could just feel the anger coming off of him. For the record, I'm not an expert on marriage. I'm not an expert on psychology or any of the things that I talk about. I have experience with the things I've been through. I can't help you with anything beyond that. Your wife says no to you, that's not abuse. If she's just not in the mood, that's not abuse. But if you try to guilt and shame her, then watch porn and try to blame her when she gives in just to stop you, that's abuse. Nothing he did could have made it better because the safety and the intimacy required to enjoy it was gone long before we ever got to the bedroom. They can sense the thermostat off by 1 degree, but a woman's feelings and thoughts, not in a million years. And that's when standard everyday faking it became the state of mind of fawning. He had to first do something to make me feel unsafe. But you're my wife. Oh, you're sick? Yeah, sure. Why'd I even do the dishes then?
My husband once said to me, I wish you didn't have to get drunk to have sex with me.
Tell me what makes you stay.
When you say no and your husband says you're selfish, it hurts. It happens a few more times and you start to think you're just a selfish person.
And it destroyed me as I altered my personality and my needs and my wants to fit within coercion, to stay where it was safe. So your anger and frustration, guilt and shame and blame, it just makes it worse. And there may come a time that it's not sex with you we don't want. It's sex at all. My ex said he loved me. I replied, "You love steak. Doesn't do the poor cow any good."
'Cause I wanna want you.
I remember feeling just terrible, like he was right. I was the worst wife in the world, and didn't matter how scared or uncomfortable I felt. I need to figure out a way to get in the mood. Suck it up and do it. What the fuck? But you're my wife. The problem started one time when I just wasn't in the mood or I was tired. In that moment, he made me feel like shit. And so this very slowly over time made my body just shut down to sex, and I didn't want it with anyone ever. Oh, but that's not my husband. My husband is so good. I'm so thankful that I have such a good husband. How could this be abused? But he used guilt and shame to get me to do what he wanted. So it crept up on me slowly.
I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to have hope because he's not here.
One of our favorite things to do together before we got married was eat ice cream. But he really liked eating ice cream with me, and he'd get mad if I didn't want to eat it at the same time he did. And it didn't take long for me to really start to hate ice cream. Over time, I started to feel sick just walking past an ice cream shop. And it made me sad because I missed ice cream. But after 10 or 15 years being forced to eat ice cream when I didn't want to, I became lactose intolerant.
Giving love to the world. We'll be raising our hands, shining up to the sky. 'Cause we got that fire, fire, fire.
How long is this going to take?
It wasn't that I suddenly had no desire for sex after we were married. It's that sex was now an obligation. It was a thing I was supposed to do. He sucked all the fun out of it.
Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up.
Yeah, this morning sickness is so bad. How come other women aren't as sick as you? God, this morning sickness is so bad. Of course. You're creating life in there.
Oh my God. I just realized something. It's been at least a week since my last O, and I'm still alive. If I said no to sex, I'd get in trouble. But if I just sort of lay there and let him have his way, well, that was even worse, because then I'm making him feel like a rapist, right? Marital coercion is like a dollhouse. I get to live there for free and dress it up however I like. But when he wants to play with me, I can't say no.
Hello, I'd just like to remind you that consent is only valid when saying no is a safe, viable option.
No, I can sleep until I feel your touch.
One minute you think it's a comedy, next minute it's an emotional journey, then it's got sort of a thriller aspect to it, but then it's quite mystical. So it goes on this crazy journey. And the weird thing is when people say, what genre is it or can you describe it? I don't think any of us can describe
Woman
it.
takes it all on herself. She's left heartbroken and alone and blaming herself for all of it. Sometimes going her whole life thinking there was something wrong with her. Because these men and the society that supports them continue to push it back onto women when it all started one time when she wasn't in the mood. When a single woman is coerced, they say, why didn't you just say no? When a married woman is coerced, they say, why were you saying no? So maybe now's a good time to tell you about my troll jail. I noticed that when I was on the plane yesterday. Thanks, friend. And it didn't take very long for me to get the idea that I was wrong to say no. Ever. Very slowly, over the next 10 years, I learned how to fake it. And my body began to register every instance, as if it were a sexual assault. I stayed because he told me it was my fault. Our church told me it was my fault. Everyone around me, people like you, told me it was my fault. So it was 20 plus years ago. I lived in LA and I was looking for a new place. And there was this guy that I worked with that was pretty cool. He was kind of a nerdy guy. I figured, he's going to be cool. He's just probably going to play video games all day. He'll pay his rent. No problem. No drama, no hair and makeup shit all over the house and bringing boys home all the time. I was kind of looking forward to a nice quiet life in a 2-bedroom apartment with this nice guy. We toured a couple of apartments and it didn't take very long for me to figure out that he was looking for more than a roommate situation. So back to the drawing board, looking for another apartment, probably with some girls again. But it's okay because they're better in bed anyway. I have just one question. What did you do 34 and a half years ago to turn her off? About a month ago, I told him all of this. I didn't tell him about TikTok, but I told him that I was learning about what coercion is and how the church had affected both of us in this degree. I tried not to put much blame on his feet. I tried to make it mostly about the church and how the church had given us this toxic idea that sex is an obligation for a woman and how that kills the sex drive and how I didn't realize that's what was happening to me all that time. And I wanted to try to fix it because I really wanted to know him biblically, and he didn't want that. He filed for divorce around that time. But I don't blame him. Facing your own demons is hard. But that's the prison. This place where who he is and how he treats the rest of us around him is solely based on how satisfied he is sexually. It's incredibly toxic, and I can see that now. This guy who was kind of paranoid about how much money we were spending seemed to just forget all about it if he thought that there was going to be something later. Healing is 50% knowledge and 50% being heard. It was not okay for me to have a headache. I didn't have the words before. I didn't know how to fight for myself. So yeah, I'm going to be a little over the top. I'm going to be a little dramatic. And I'm going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people. And I don't give a shit. And him being upset all the time. At the hint that I might say no. It was my problem. And I just needed to figure it out. But that's where all the intimacy was lost. In those moments, not being able to talk to him for fear of hurting him. When the ego is bigger than the heart, it destroys everyone around it. So I doubled down. Your dad loves you. He's good. He really is. I promise. He gets frustrated sometimes. I made excuses. Told them they didn't have boundaries. Their autonomy it only went as far as Dad's self-esteem. I loved him so much that I ended up hating myself because I was never enough for him.
I'm getting really comfortable with anger.
Will I let this woman kill me or do away with jealous love? Will it wash out in the water or is it always in the blood? Hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name?
Although they're getting farther apart, there are still days that I doubt all of this. So I go back to these old videos and I scroll through these comments of women saying me too. And it reminds me that I'm not alone in this. And thank you for all of your comments. So I'm on a date night. I've been doing this about once a month since he left. Just hanging out with myself. This just blows my mind. The thousands of comments I get from women saying, I tried to tell him over and over and over and over again. He called me a nag. He said this again. Aren't you over that yet? And then the day I walk out the door, he goes, well, why didn't you just communicate? Takes years. Currently completely incapable of sexual arousal. I kind of, like, my eyes started to water and I started to clench my knees together, you know, and like I couldn't stop that feeling. And so it got kind of freaky distracting. I just ripped my headphones off and I like ran to the bathroom and like I felt like I had to pee. Really, it was weird. But yeah, things are changing.
Your feelings are valid. There is nothing in this world more painful to a woman than being made to feel guilty for not giving her body to a man. Or worse, being forced to have sex she doesn't want to make that feeling stop. So if you let it go 5 years, that's on you for not trying to figure out some other way to love her. And this what about me moment of yours is going to be an example to every other man out there that this is not about you at all.
Sex is not a need. And that's a hill I'm going to die on. Even if you could prove to me that a person needs regular orgasms, there's nothing saying another person has to be involved in that. When I initiated sex to prevent him from getting angry and boiling over and blowing up at all of us, when I would go to that quiet place in my mind where sex was safe, I could pretend for a little while to make him happy, to make him finish, and then we'd have a few days of peace. It validates something, and I can't explain it, but as much as it hurts, it releases me from so much of the shame to know that there are so many other men that are just like him.
I get this question a lot, and I don't answer it because it puts the onus on me, the victim, to be teaching the abusers. And that's what you are. You're an abuser. You need to accept that. So I'll answer this once, and then we can tag all the men in it. First, there is no undoing it. It's done. You've done it. And hard as that might be to hear, she's the one who's going to have to live with it. Forever.
Send in the clowns. Don't bother. They're here.
Not all men, not all men, just the ones who bicker in my comments all day. Not all men, not all men, just the ones who kick and scream to have their say. Not all men, not all men, just you. It's gross, cap benign diatribe. They need to see what's yours is mine. As for the babies, look up, not upside nor down. Life is not limp toe.
I'm so sorry, sir. I did not mean to eat out of your trash receptacle. I will stay out of your way if you would like to continue to tell these women that they need to be having sex with their husbands against their will, because God's will is more important than I will get out of your hair. Trash Panda out.
If you wonder how long I'll be talking,
I'll be happy to tell you again. I'm gonna talk here forever and ever, forever and ever, amen.
I think you need to stop talking about this and move on. You are wasting your life living and constantly talking about your past. Time is precious.
My mama taught me to love a man. His heart is found in his pants. He'll never love you as long as they're on. He's not gonna love you for very long, Mama said.
A good roommate won't complain about humidity and clean up their own mess. Tampons in the floor, pick their own kids up, accusations about neighbors.
I didn't really mean to hurt you. I didn't want to see you go. I know I made you cry, but baby, if I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd take back those words that have hurt you. You'd stay if I could reach the stars. This baby, cover me with love.
Everybody's got a water buffalo. Yours is fast, but mine is slow. Oh, where'd we get them? I don't know, but everybody's got a water buffalo.
Having unwanted sex doesn't make people closer, but being closer can make people want sex. If your wife desires you, she'll let you know. There won't be any denying it. But if you just want to feel desired by her, she can make you feel desired without actually having any desire herself. So, do you want to feel desired? Or do you want your wife to feel desire?
If you think your love language is physical touch, but you get angry with your partner when they don't physically touch you when you want them to, your love language is not physical touch. Your love language is control. There's a big difference between admiring someone as a person and possessing them with your eyes.
A girlfriend gave me chores, but I don't wanna do them. Gotta be a way I can get right through them. About to try a brand new form of a gaslight. Gonna make her do them, but first I gotta ask right. Listen, babe, if I do it, I'ma mess it up. Listen, babe, is this the way that
I'm sad, I'm glad, I'm happy, and I'm mad. I feel so many things.
Don't focus, then there's someone nicer and prettier and more car that will. So you, I'm not in the mood, bitches, can't die alone.
Don't you know who I am? Remember my name. Say, I'm gonna live forever. I think I'm crazy. All I want is you.
blossom on a tree? You know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good.
2 years ago, I hid from my husband to change my clothes, and I didn't dare look in a mirror. Just the thought of my own body made me want to curl into a ball and die. A man's worst nightmare is coming home to an empty bed. But for a woman who's been coerced for 20 years, it's heaven. I just love getting under your skin. In fact, I quite literally get off on it sometimes.
How many times do I have to tell you boys? Sex is for women too.
In the TikTok justice system, the people are represented by two separate but equal groups. The tone police who investigate crime, and the commenters who prosecute them. Every day in America, thousands of men suffer from cruelty and neglect. Many are rescued by women with very little self-respect, but there are still thousands more who need your help right now. Please call the number on your screen and make sure that these men never go without.
Now let's test your knowledge. I'm going to say no to you, and I'll wait for your response. No. Did you get that? The correct answer was okay.
Oh shit, I have a gray hair sticking up here. That's new hair growing back. Real intimacy is knowing the difference between what's sexual and what's sensual. I just got out of therapy. I didn't intend to talk about a guy in therapy, but I did. I spent almost the whole time talking about where my head is at with a couple different people. But you know, I can wait as long as it takes to find one who's safe. Many people have been deprived in their childhood of the nourishment that comes from being touched, held, and cuddled. Research has shown that this deprivation can cause emotional disturbances such as depression, hyperactivity, and aggression. So, I'm seeing somebody. She's great. She's smart and funny. A little full of herself sometimes, but I'm getting used to that. It's not right or wrong, it just is. And I'm learning to live with it. She's great. But, yeah, it's me. So I'm in a solo relationship with myself. Very committed. If I were to see a man at this point, it would be cheating on myself. I'm thinking about what it's like to have a relationship with me. Not what it would be like for a man to be in a relationship with me. But what it's like for me to have a relationship with me. What do I see in myself that's worthy of love? What do I see in myself that's just annoying quirks versus things that need to be changed in order for me to be in a relationship with myself? I'm learning to feel what sex is like when it's safe, because for so long it wasn't. For 20 years I had no control over my own sexuality. Every moment spent in the bedroom was for his pleasure and for my salvation. But now that my body is mine again, there's something so thrilling about the idea of relinquishing control to another person with my full consent. She's sitting there and she just held up her hand like this and she said, okay, whenever you're ready, if you like, I invite you to touch my hand. And I giggled like a little kid and I held my hand up and was just like pushing and pulling, and for some reason I just couldn't do it, and I was kind of laughing it off and just like, what's wrong with me? Why is it such a big deal? Why can't I just do this? And she said, are you feeling obligated to initiate right now? I can digress a minute. I'm autistic, and I spent most of my childhood figuring out who people needed me to be. And very slowly,
Over my childhood, it became putting on personas, putting on characters, playing characters. The good student, the good daughter, and then ultimately the good wife. When I was being myself, my natural self, just tired, had a headache, well, just, normal, healthy things, I was rejected. I put on my happy face for him, so he wouldn't feel rejected and get mad.
Is anyone there? Hello? We're here. I don't know what's happening. There seem to be men getting it. We're watching. This is good. Yeah, I know. It's a good sign. Sounds like you're not ready to come home yet. Yeah, I think I'll stay. So men aren't having less sex. They're having less rape.
I don't know if I told you guys, but I actually finished the playbook, and this is in there. For those who don't know, the playbook is all of these comments from all of these men for the last 2 years. I've put them into a book. It is already proving to be a really handy resource for everyone. I'm hearing from therapists and coaches too who are using it. This is a big one. Blaming your partner for their past trauma getting in the way of your relationship is huge. When you do this, you are re-traumatizing your partner. You are the one now sexually abusing them. You're basically telling them, have sex with me or else. And in reality, both people need to get help. One needs to learn their worth and how to set boundaries, and the other one needs to know how to respect them.
That's just not reality. And you've been around for more than a year. That is long enough to know that I don't give a shit about what the dictionary says or what the law says. This is about what's happening to women's bodies. These women, their bodies, their nervous systems, their minds are being sexually assaulted, psychologically and physically. You don't have to believe in something for it to be true. If you've ever complained to your buddies that your wife is your roommate, you might be a red flag. If you've ever abandoned your wife to sleep on the couch because she had a headache, you might be a red flag. If you've ever thought to yourself, why in the hell did I do the dishes if my wife was just gonna say no, you might be a red
I
flag.
get women here all the time that tell me I'm abusing and neglecting a husband if we say no at all. So here was Christianity telling this woman that she needed to do whatever it takes to please this man. And he was telling her to just get yourself a little more organized so you can get some more rest so we can have more sex. This man was not at all concerned for his wife. He was not checking in with her to see how she's doing and thinking maybe I could just hold my wife tonight.
Man, she's always nagging me all the time. God, pick up your socks. Quit putting boogers on the walls. Stop watching porn. I mean, seriously, she just couldn't stop controlling me.
Jethro, get out of here. Are you telling me that half of the world's population is coercive? I mean, I knew, but I didn't really know it until you said it.
No, seriously, man, this chick is insane. She's out here telling women every day that they don't have to sleep with their husbands. What a crock of shit.
If you're new to following Mending Me and you just saw me in the last video, I should probably introduce you to everybody so you're not confused. This one never left the cheerleading squad. I'm not a snob. I don't know why everybody says that. I don't think you're a snob. I really like you. That one's a pushover. Just how I like. Matthew, darling, we're watching you. You won't get away with that here. That old charmer, I don't think she's ever had a man. Not that we need one. Well, hello there. I didn't expect to be seen tonight. I haven't done my hair. It's been a while, but maybe I'll see you again.
Whoever said it was hard to hang a man was out of his mind. All you have to do is give him rope and he'll do a fine job of it himself.
What's wrong with filters?
Sorry. I'm just lonely and I like the attention.
Are we friends now? Are we gonna have a slumber party?
No. My dear, I think you're taking TikTok a little too seriously.
Whatever.
Yeah. What the? Who made me look like a female?
Good sex is like good bridge. If you don't have a good partner, you'd better have a good hand.
I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you.
If it's not free, it's not love. A man is afraid of rejection. A woman is afraid of that man's reaction if he thinks he's been rejected.
No, please. Please don't send me to the briar patch, sir. I've been a good rabbit, I promise.
You are not owed, because I am not owned.
If there is not already a deep, loving intimacy within that relationship before you get to the bedroom, it's just hormones. It's chemicals. And it'll be over by the time you get your coffee in the morning.